In this video, I'm going to outline what I think the future of professional golf should look like. Professional golf has been divided now for a very long time. Ever since the framework agreement was announced on June the 6th, 2023, all we've been hearing is that they are working on trying to bring the world of professional golf back together. Yet all I ever seem to hear is that putting a schedule together is far harder than people realise. Well, I decided to put a schedule together, and I'm going to show you what I think it could look like and how it would work. Right, so before I put my tour schedule for professional golf with us all under one umbrella up on the screen for you to look at, I just want to explain that this is going to need some compromise from both sides. So there are going to be less PGA Tour events, there's going to be less LIV Tour events, and the DP World Tour is also sprinkled in there because it's important that we also look after the DP World Tour as well. So I'm going to put up the schedule on the screen first and just explain what it is, how it, what everything denotes on the screen, and then I'll go into how I see it all working. Here is the schedule. So as you can see here, the PGA Tour events are in green. The reddy orange are the majors. The blue are the DP World Tour. And the LIV events are in purple. So as you can see, under my idea is that the PGA Tour season runs from January through to July and the Open Championship. And then the LIV Tour and the major DP World Tour events run from after the Open in late July all the way through till November. And I see that a lot of the LIV events will be international events to take the game of golf around the world. So they would be obviously going to Australia and, Korea and probably Japan and, Singapore. There'll be some in America as well, but it'd be primarily quite a lot of international events. But it will be up to the LIV Tour to schedule those events as they see fit. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go through each tour's schedule first, and then I will explain to you how I see it working from the player's point of view. So let's start with the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour basically has got all of its major events crammed into its season from January through till the Open Championship. So, we start in Hawaii in January, as the tour has always done, but then we have all of those events that you want to see: the Genesis at Riviera, Arnold Palmer Bay Hill, the Players at Sawgrass, the Houston Open, then into the Masters, the RBC Heritage. The Memorial at Jack Nicklaus's course at the end of May. So all of those big, massive, historic, amazing events on the PGA Tour are all still there within their season, but their season would now run from January through to the middle of July. What about the LIV Tour? Well, the LIV Tour will then run from after the Open in mid-July through to the end of November. And under my new schedule, it's reduced from 14 events to 10 events. And as you can see, because the players will be playing the Open Championship in the UK, the first event will be the LIV UK at JCB. Then the British Masters on the DP World Tour. While everyone's in the UK, let's schedule that in there. And then LIV Spain, which is obviously a very short travelling distance to go from the UK to Spain. After that, I've put them all in as the LIV to be confirmed. But obviously you would have the events like in Australia, a lot of international events to take the world more global, which is what LIV has been trying to do. Lastly, the DP World Tour. So we still have the Dubai Desert Classic in January because a lot of players like to start their season there. So that would stay in there. But then the major DP World Tour events will run concurrently with the LIV Tour events later in the season. So you've got the British Masters, the European Masters, the Irish Open, the BMW PGA at Wentworth, the French Open, the Alfred Dunhill Links, the Spanish Open, and then finishing with the Abu Dhabi champs and the DP World Tour champs out in the desert. So you've still got all of the major DP World Tour events running at the end of the season around the LIV Tour events. Now, it's important to explain before I get on to how I see this working for the players from the respective tours, to understand that in that first start of the season where all that green is for the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour runs its usual schedule. And that's very important when it comes to where I see all the players getting their opportunities to play. And also, after the Open Championship, when we go into the LIV Tour events and the big DP World Tour events that the top players from all tours will be encouraged to play in, the PGA Tour will continue to run events in that period, but they will be their lesser events for lesser purses. But there are still events on the PGA Tour available for players to play in. Right, so how is this going to work for the players on each tour? So I'm working on the basis that every major player, big player in the world, it doesn't matter which tour you're on, usually looks to play around 22 events in a season. So we'll start with the PGA Tour players. The PGA Tour player will play 12 PGA Tour events in the first half of the season. So from January through till the Open, they will be looking to play 12 events on the PGA Tour, and that will keep them, really sharp and getting their games ready to play in the majors. You then have the 4 majors as well, that they would, if you're a major player, you're going to be invited to all of those. So there's 16 events, and then that leaves you with 6 events where you could be invited to play on the LIV Tour. Now, as I see it, I see that the LIV Tour will add 3 more teams to their shotgun start, and that can be done. They just need to put two groups of 3 on the par 5s when teeing off, which is perfectly, there's no reason why they can't do that. And then that opens up the opportunity in LIV Tour events for 12 PGA Tour players to get invites to the LIV Tour. And then they could choose to play in 6 of those, whichever ones they wanted to play in. And it wouldn't be the same players all the time. It would kind of alternate. But then that would make up your 22 events. So 12 events on the PGA Tour, 4 majors, and 6 events on the LIV Tour gives you 22 events. Well, what about if you're a major player on the LIV Tour? Well, if you're a major player on the LIV Tour and you're looking to play 22 events, how I see it is you are contracted to play 10 events on the LIV Tour. That is part of your contract, so you have to play in all 10 of those events. With the 4 majors, that is 14 events, and then that means that you've got 8 events that you could be invited to on the PGA Tour. So these big events at the start of the season would choose to invite whichever players they wanted to invite from LIV to play in those major PGA Tour events. And that would make up your 22 events. Now, what if you're not one of the major players on the LIV Tour and you're probably not going to get an invite to play in those? Well, as part of the agreement, all LIV golfers get access to play DP World Tour events. So when I said that DP World Tour runs from January through till the Open at the same time as the PGA Tour, the same as it does now, the lesser players on the LIV Golf Tour can go and play on the DP World Tour, so they've got some golf to play in the early season and get their games ready if they're lucky enough to get to a major, which they're probably not going to, but also means that when they start their LIV golf events in late July, they have played some competition golf on the DP World Tour to make sure they're ready to try and perform on the LIV Golf Tour. I hope you're following this. Right, okay. So what about if you are a DP World Tour player? Well, if you're a DP World Tour player, you will continue to play the DP World Tour events as you do now. And you would still have the pathway to qualify for the PGA Tour via the DP World Tour based on the top 10 players at the end of the season. Now, I still see that as a good thing, but it's not going to be totally at the detriment of the DP World Tour, because the LIV golfers are going to be looking to play some competition golf early in the season, and that will bolster some of their fields as well. So the DP World Tour continues to run, and also when we get to their major events near the end of the year, the top players on the PGA Tour, who have only played 16 events up to the Open, they will be encouraged to support some of the, co-sanctioned. I mean, all of these events are going to be co-sanctioned events at the end of the day, because they're all going to be under the same umbrella. They will be encouraged to come and play in some of those big DP World Tour events, and thus obviously raise the profile of those events. So there is my vision for the future of professional golf. What do I think are the advantages of this? Well, we still maintain all of the major PGA Tour events, which, as I said before, is very important. But in a lot of those events that the top LIV golfers will be wanting to play in, like I say, to get their game sharp in the early season to be ready for the majors, means that we get all of the top players in the world playing against each other more often in those PGA Tour events early in the season. Then once we get to the Open Championship and the LIV Golf Tour starts, we then have the extra spice for a LIV Golf Tour event that will have 3 teams playing that have got PGA Tour players playing and competing in. And then that, for me, would really add a lot of spice to the LIV Tour events, having those teams of PGA Tour players. On the DP World Tour, I see it as a win-win, because in their early season events, which, let's be honest, at the moment they are, pretty weak fields, they will be strengthened because there will be LIV golfers looking to go and play in those events that aren't getting invites to the major PGA Tour events. So the PGA Tour events, I see they will be wanting to invite the Brysons, the Brooks, the Rahms, the Smiths, the Joaquin Niemans, probably like the top 15 players on the LIV Tour will be getting invites, maybe the top 20 invites to those PGA Tour events, thus obviously bringing all the world's golfers together more often in those events. But you still have players like, I don't know, Brandon Grace, Sebastian Munoz, Mita Pereira, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Caleb Surratt, who's a very, very talented young golfer. Those types of players will be then going and playing in the early season DP World Tour events, because they're going to be looking to play competitive golf in the early season. And that is going to raise the profile of those DP World Tour events, because, the fields are going to be stronger. So I see PGA Tour is gaining from bringing all of the best players in the world back together in their biggest events. LIV Tour is prospering because they're now getting the top players from the PGA Tour coming to play in their events in their own PGA Tour teams. And the DP World Tour gets bolstered early season by some of the, LIV golfers that are still very strong golfers playing in the DP World Tour events. And then later, when the DP World Tour events get to their major events, then they will be supported by more of the top PGA Tour players, hence making those become a lot bigger as well. Imagine if the BMW at Wentworth had your top players from LIV playing, but also had a sprinkling of your Justin Thomases, your Scotty Schefflers, your, Jordan Spieths, whoever it is, then that would be an amazing field for the DP World Tour as well. I see this as a win-win for everyone. So there is my solution to bringing the world of professional golf back together. I think that this works on a number of levels. It brings a lot of the world's top players playing against each other more often. It preserves the PGA Tour events that have got all the history and are the standout events. The LIV Golf Tour gets to take some more of the top players around the world, so not just the ones who've got on LIV now, but some of the PGA Tour players that would get invites to those events, to take them around the world, which is really important because golf isn't a game just for the United States of America, like the PGA Tour tends to think so. No, we should be taking these players to Australia, South Africa, to the UK, to Spain. These are golf-mad countries. And the DP World Tour will also benefit as well, as I've sort of outlined. So please get in the comments, what do you think about that as a solution? It's without doubt, no one can tell me that that's not better than the situation we have now, where we've got everyone split up on 2 different tours. But I think that actually is a lot better than what we had before LIV came along. I think that actually, if the world of professional golf ended up looking like that, I think this whole pain and fractured world of golf that we've gone through will be worth it to end up with a schedule that looks like that, which I believe is better for the game of golf than what we had before, because we're going to get more of the best players in the world playing against each other more often, and we're going to take it more globally as well. Please get in the comments, let me know what you think.